Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel where today we're going to be going over what is Refined 2 gear and how to obtain it and how useful is it. As some of you may or may not know, Ubisoft during Season 6 released what is called Refined 2 gear. Some of you who are lower levels may not even come across this. Meanwhile, people at higher levels may even see it but not notice it. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you what is Refined Gear. Well, right now, I'm going to show you what is Refined Gear. So, Refined 2 Gear is slightly different than Refined Gear. And we're going to go to my Kensei to show an example of what Refined, Tunable, and Refined Gear look like. So, Refinable 2 Gear now has 2 diamonds instead of 1 diamond. As you can see here, look at the mouse. Right here, we see how it has only 1 little diamond. This means it is normal refinable gear. Meanwhile, over here, we see it has 2 little diamonds. This means it can be double refined. And once you level up an item all the way to max, you will have the option to refine it right after. It's just a matter of clicking upgrade several times until you get the option of refining it. And then that will cost some 300 steel and a little bit of salvage. That is a bit expensive, as with most leveling up. Now, it doesn't level you up much. I'm going to show you guys that in a second, because that's one of the flaws of my last video. And Refined 2 gear is different than Refined 1 gear in the sense that you actually can refine it twice. And it pretty much behaves just like Refined gear, except it's a different type, and you can refine it again after you've already refined it. An example of this would be my Shinobi. If it will load. There we go. As you can see in my second loadout, is different than my first loadout in the sense that the first one has only 1 diamond that is shining, and the second one only has 2 diamonds that are shining. This means that my second loadout is double refined, meanwhile my first loadout is just normal refined. And this has nothing to do with the looks. Refined gear is just legendary gear that can go a little bit higher than normal. That is another thing many of you asked me. You can change the looks. Well, actually, it doesn't matter anymore because the new change look system. So, yeah. So, it is quite literally just a different type of gear you can refine in extra time that will cost more steel. Now, that's pretty much all it is, and we're also going to see how much of a difference it makes. This is Refined gear versus Refined 2 gear versus Refined 1. Notice the stat changes. You only get a 0.2 to you get a 0.4 to 0.1 increase in some of your stats. For defense, it was 0.1. Of course, this is across balance gear. Do keep in mind, if you have different types of gear other than balance gear, see, for instance, my Shinobi has all balance gear. And across both types. Just for the sake of this tutorial, I could show you guys the differences between Refined 1 and Refined 2. And believe me, this costs a lot of steel. You guys better be thanking me in the comments down below. Refining across balance gear will only affect your defense stat by 1%, by 0.1%, and your exhaustion recovery by 0.2%, and your debuff resistance by 0.4%. And sometimes these won't change your stats at all. Just keep in mind. See, for my attack, it wasn't changed all that much. So, 12.5 to 12.2. Small increase, but not that entirely noticeable. And 10.4 to 10.2. Again, this is cross balance. So, if you don't have balance gear, this will probably affect you slightly more. 2.5 to 2.4, 10.2, 13.5, and so on and so forth. Now we are going to compare the overall difference between both heroes, between both loadouts. 6.94% defense and 8.98% attack versus 7.07 and 9.15%. So we increase a good 0.20% attack and almost 0.20%. And the same goes for defense. Well, not exactly. 0.10% defense. Which, overall, is not justified in price. This is not worth it. This is only if you want the absolute best of the best of the best for your character. And more or less, if you want to be like Men in Black, yeah, go for this.
Because you're looking for the best of the best of the best, sir.
But other than that, it's not worth it, and it costs a very large amount of skill to obtain and get. Now, how do you attain Refined 2 gear? Here's the next thing you can go over. You can either scavenge for it, or you can win it in just normal salvage on the battlefield. Now, you can get Refined 2 gear at Rep 9. But your chances of getting it will slowly increase as you rep up that character more. For instance, my Shinobi, who is Rep 50, will almost always get Refined 2 gear. Meanwhile, as you saw with my Kensei, who is, again, my secondary example, can get varying differences between Refine 1, Refine 2, and occasionally normal gear, though I don't seem to have any on me for an example of that. So, the higher the rep, the better chance you have of getting this gear. Now, another thing I'm going to go over is what difference does this make? So we're going to choose PK bot because Stealth Guard, and we're going to load in as my Shinobi first. My first loadout for Shinobi. And if it shows my secondary loadout, ignore that, that's a glitch. Okay, it shows my first loadout. Last time I did the test on this, it showed my first loadout, and then it reappeared as my second loadout when I chose my second one. I wish you could change heroes so much faster in this training mode, but nevertheless. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you the stats. And you guys aren't going to be pleased. There isn't much of a difference. 30. Oh wait, I have to enable gear stats. Should probably do that. Okay. So 33 and 11. 16. 39. Now I'm going to show you my second loadout. Again, it might glitch to show my first loadout when I actually pick my second. Yep, there it is. There we go. There's my second loadout. Now, here's where you guys are gonna be slightly disappointed. It's the exact same. It's the exact same. Now, I haven't tested this out yet, but let's try it with Revenge. 44-15. 21-15. 52. So, the highest damage we can do is 52 with Revenge on our second loadout. So let's go to our first loadout and see what difference it makes there. Remember, if your opponent does have negative defense, this may or may not give diminishing or increasing returns as well. This is just a general demonstration of how worth it is Refined 2 gear, and should you get it. Okay, we already got revenge because for some reason it saves. And let's just over here. The most damage we can do is 52. And it's the exact same. Now, here's the difference. Balance gear refined won't necessarily be what you're after. And there's also the fact that it does change your other stats as well. It's just I cannot perceivably demonstrate them to you. For instance, my revive speed got buffed slightly by like 0.4%, by like 0.3%. You guys aren't going to notice that. This just tiny makes my Shinobi better. So going from Refined 1 to Refined 2 gear when you have a full balance loadout, it's a terrible idea. Don't even, if you already have Refined gear, full balance, don't even work for Refined 2 balance. And if you have a different loadout, you could try for it, but it's not going to be as worth it as maybe just getting to gear level 180. Another thing, again, this is on balance gear, so it will be different, but refining increases all stats. From what I saw, it increases stats only. It does not take away from the stats, but in fact it increases all the stats by a very small percentage, including in this scenario. So, like for instance, my Kensei. It should be, my debuff resistance should be entirely gone, but for some reason, it's still there, in a tiny margin. Even after, because I refined it and it put it up that tiny little pixel, which should not be very significant, but it's still there. So again, unless you want
Best of the best of the best, sir.
well, that, don't worry about Refined 2 gear. When you see someone with Refined 2 gear, just think, oh, he just spent who knows how much steel on getting just a little bit past 180. It is only for if you want
Best of the best of the best.
So if you guys did like this video, please make sure to hit that like button. If you didn't, you know what to do. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe if you want more For Honor content. And I will see all you dudes in the next video. Bye-bye.